Hello, Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Legal Innovation and Technology Lit. It's episode 13, and today we are going to be talking about how we can build a sustainable future for Bangladesh, and how law and technology can work together to make that happen and solve all the problems in terms of tackling food security, in terms of climate changes, in the smart Bangladesh vision that we are all seeing and dreaming about every day. And basically this topic and this title came to my mind as we celebrated World Environment Day on 5th of June, just I think 10 days ago or a week ago. And আমি actually দেখলাম যে খুব কমই awareness campaigns হচ্ছিল about World Environment Day. And আমরা সবাই দেখছি যে climate change, and আমাদের দেশের the entire world globally, and every single country is going through a crisis. আমরা দেখি winters are getting colder, summers are getting hotter, and there are so many aspects towards the climate, and we are ignoring um, the impact, and the importance of protecting the planet for the future generation. I think we don't pay enough attention, uh, or we don't talk about it as much. And I really wanted to merge this particular topic with law and technology. And I could not think of a better speaker than I have with me today. And before I go on to introduce her, those of you who are joining me for the first time, I'm Barrister Tasnuba Shelly. I'm a legal professional for about 18 years. I'm very passionate about law, technology, innovation, and anything that's related with legal tech. My vision is to basically merge law and technology together. And I think only then the dream of smart Bangladesh will become a reality. And the topics that we will cover today in our webinar, it's basically how we can improve the food security, how we can combat the climate change that we feel and we see every day, how we can improve the air quality in our country. আমাদের দেশের air quality actually is quite high. We are ranked on top few countries around the world who has very poor air quality, and how we can collaborate to tackle these challenges, because like I said, it's a global problem. We have to save our planet, and we have to save the world, and we need to collaborate, and we want to see how that is possible. And before I say anything more, I want to introduce to all of you our special guest, a very dear friend, and who is also very passionate about climate and environment and law and technology. So kind of like my twin sister, you can say. So building a sustainable future, how law and tech can help tackling food security and climate challenges in smart Bangladesh. And for this webinar series with me, I have Barrister Nadia Chaudhry. Barrister Nadia is an advocate of the District and Sessions Judge Court. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She holds an LLB, an LLM, and an MSc in Political Economy from London School of Economics. And she has worked for a decade in various roles. She supports the cause and worked against preventing domestic violence. She was a part of the London Innocence Project. Then she worked for the animal welfare. She's very passionate about the rights of the animals. She was a national expert of FAO, and I can go on. She is also very passionate about tech and merging legal tech together. She's a CEO and the co-founder of My Legal Tech, and she's also a member of the Bangladesh Army League International Affairs Subcommittee. So she has many roles to play, and I believe her work has been instrumental in many areas, and I cannot wait to have more interesting conversation around merging law and tech and saving the planet with Nadia. So Nadia, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this webinar with me. It's such a great honor. I have been wanting to have this chat with you, so because I know we have so much in common. We both are barristers and lawyers by profession. However, have these added feathers with that, because knowing law is not enough in this day and age. And our environment is so important. And the world we live in, if we don't treat it properly, I believe our future generation will completely be at loss. So we have to take care of our planet for the future generation, and we have to do it in such a smart way. And that is where the merging of law and tech comes in place. So Nadia, how are you? And welcome.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me to be able to discuss the topic that I'm very passionate about. I'm very excited to talk about this.
So Nadia,
Sure. As you already mentioned, I'm the national legal expert for the Food Organization of the United Nations. So the project that I'm part of, it is called the Pesticide Risk Reduction in Bangladesh project, which mainly persistent organic pollutants that remain in the environment for a really long time from the chemicals that we use in our day-to-day lives. And so we are working to reduce the impact and use chemicals in our environment. So under this project, we have six components. One of the components is dealing with plastic waste pollution. So Bangladesh is actually ranking 10th in the highest plastic producing countries in the world. And a portion of that plastic waste comes from the pesticide industry. We also deal with the second part is to ratify the Rotterdam Convention. You mentioned the Sustainable Development on live. To be able to establish the sustainable development goals, we need to ratify the Rotterdam Convention, which deals with the import of pesticides and other chemicals as well. And then we are also dealing with the framework for pesticides in Bangladesh. We also have another component that deals with strengthening lab capacity in Bangladesh, another one that a pesticide surveillance center or pesticide control center with the Ministry of Health, and we are promoting, always promote alternatives to harmful pesticides that our farmers use. Before I jump into what we do for World Environment Day, I would like to add that I think perhaps why World Environment Day hasn't become as popular in this part of the world is because traditionally, actually, I would enjoyed being, a very self-sufficient and minimalist country where our farmers drove our economy, and it was off the farmers' back that we were able to build back our economy after the 1970s. I just want to go back a little bit because we are in the month of the 6 point movement. And actually, one of the points of the 6 point movement was to have the tax and revenue collector be done by units instead of having it in the central federal system. So we see this whole shift from colonization. Important to recognize this. One of my favorite activists. She's an Indian activist, Vandana Shiva. That food is the weapon of war, right? Just like we're seeing what's happening in the genocide of the Palestinians, Israel, and U.S. and U.K. So that is, these resources, our food and resources, are being weaponized, and period of colonization. So I just want to go back there and recognize that Bangladesh, India back then, the East, we were never all about, globalized society driven by greed and money. We are resource abundant, and we were minimalist in our use of resources. So from colonization, and then obviously our resources being controlled by a West, was after that when the 6 point movement happened, where I mentioned tax and revenue, which again is a way of controlling our resources and controlling the way we live, holds power. After the war, Bangabandhu started, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib started the Green Revolution. Not a lot of people know about this, so I think because I have this opportunity, if you allow me, I'm going to talk about it. And do cut me off if I take up too much time.
No, no, I mean, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And we had no idea. Like Sheikh Mujib, our father of the nation, he actually was a visionary. He thought about this, the vision of having technology in our, within our jurisdiction. He thought of green projects in saving the environment, and I think a lot of it is reflected in our constitution. He already always had the respect to, to respect people's privacy, which is right now an issue because of the digital world that we live in. So he was a visionary, and I would really want to know about the green project. Please, this is this.
Yeah. Started the Green back in, a lot of people will know about Bakshal. That's driven around our farmers contributing to our economy. And after the war, and actually even during the war, you will see our audience, Bangabandhu's audience, were actually, a lot of farmers, because liberated on the backs of farmers. A lot of our liberation heroes are your average farmers who in this war, because their resources were being controlled. So a lot of our war heroes are farmers. And then in 1973, Bangladesh was supported by FAO, and actually FAO was the first international NGO to support Bangladesh with relief efforts. And not a lot of, but in 1973, Bangabandhu actually gave agriculturists first-class officer status, because his was that we don't want men in suits. We want you, educated people, to go out in farms and educate our farmers and work in the area of growing food, because this is the most important part of Bangladesh, because that is what our by. And so that was a large part of the Bakshal policy, Green Revolution, he coined the Shonar Bangla. So that's very important to first understand. We as Eastern Southern people, Bangladeshi people, we Bengali people, we were always minimalists. So we one of our principal foundation is socialism. So he, in this Green Revolution, he came up with the idea of building cooperatives, which is go to climate change, forums. This is a heavy topic, right? Because everyone wants to now, everyone understands the value of cooperatives, but this is being blocked by all the big corporations that we're being governed by. So 68 men in the world ruled all our resources. Can you believe that? And like Vandana Shiva says, this movement that we're part of, where every single commodity is seen, every single resource, every single thing in our nature is seen as a commodity with a value. This comes from the mindset of masculine, globalist, capitalist kind of environment, which is anti-feminine, right? And it's our feminine nature to take care of people, to be creative, and to work towards producing goods that run on that are that is being redefined by by the men in the world, right? So we have to bring back that energy and redefine work to include the work that our women in the country are doing. Our women actually take care of the livestock that we have in our country, even though the male farmers will probably have the name attached to the property or the livestock. So that's the area that I work on. When I returned to Bangladesh in 2014 after being called to the bar in 2010, as you mentioned, I worked in criminal law, immigration law in the UK, England, and Wales until I returned in 2014. And my career really took off with the case Oberon versus Bangladesh, where I challenged dog culling as a common practice to maintain the dog population. And it was that case that actually opened up my eyes to sustain through the products that we use in our day-to-day lives and through the food that we use. I had no idea that there was such a big connection to how the food I eat every day impacts our environment. And I joined their animal team, animal health department. That's when I realized the connection between animal health, the environment, and human health, and that's called the One Health. And actually, our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is actually the co-chair of distant global leaders, right? So it holds a lot of significance for Bangladesh. And then, obviously, as you mentioned, coming question after all of this discussion, on the 6th of June, we actually went out to Shatoria. 5th of June was World Environment Day, as you correctly pointed out. And 6th of June, we actually went out into the field in Shatoria because we selected Victoria as the place where we can pilot our plastic waste management campaign. So in Bangladesh, we do have a lot of really harmful chemicals. I mentioned the pollutants, and amongst these are highly hazardous pesticides that overuse in our plant farming, right? So there are highly hazardous pesticides that are currently used in Bangladesh and 15 on a regular basis, right? So from this industry, there's a lot of plastic that comes out. So we choose Shatoria to launch this pilot project of recycling the plastic that comes from the pesticide industry. And mind you, this is not regular, is highly hazardous plastic. At the moment, there is no way to recycle this highly hazardous pesticide waste. We don't have the capacity to dispose of this plastic waste. What we do, we actually shred them into microchips. Plastic chips then end up in plastic products that we use every day, even in your chips. So that is very harmful for your child. Obviously, anything that's killing pests in our environment, guaranteed, is harmful for your body. And that's the connection that we make. Antibiotics that we're giving to kill viruses, using it for, they are harming us as well. We have to make that connection that all living beings are connected in that way, and we fail to make that connection for some reason. But it is time now, like I said, through colonization and through globalization and through a highly masculine capitalist society, we are having to mass produce, which was never the case. We were Bangabandhu promoted cooperatives, farming cooperatives, where the resources, the products that we produce ourselves, amongst ourselves, for the people. It's not for mass production by greedy entire world's population and controlling the world's products, resources, and resources that are naturally occurring in the environment. What happens now, because we are mass producing, we have to be pushed to become this capitalist greasy society. But because of we were following the British, and then the controlled our resources. Now thinking about exporting now. So what's happening in the West is that they're running out of land for farming. They're to feed their livestock, but they have the money to buy our land, even though it's that we should be entitled to it, our land, to do all this work, and giving our resources away. We are mass producing, and we are giving our resources away to other people. And because of this, because of the pressure to mass produce, we are using a lot of antibiotics, farm animals. We're using a lot of pesticides to meet the demands. At war, there were 75 million people, and now we're 175 million people. So we're growing at a 20% rate over the half a century, right? But and 0.23% of agricultural land per year. How are we going to make up for this? The rich people are going to go to the moon or have their bunkers if they survive any catastrophe on the earth. And the poor people are just going to continue to starve while we give away our land to the cows and livestock in the US. That is the situation that we're in right now. And because of that, one of the components obviously is plastic waste management. We had in Chittagong, we had a DDT. This is again, DDT is a very harmful pesticide used for a hospital in Bangladesh in the 80s, and then it was just lying there in the depot, Chittagong Hospital depot, for decades, since 80s. And then floods came, it got drowned out, went out in anything, because Bangladesh simply doesn't have a way to dispose of pesticide. FAO came in, and then year that we were able to declare ourselves DDT free, a DDT free country, we had to ship this 500 ton material to France to get it disposed of, because we don't have a way to dispose this off. In our laws, it says that we should burn pesticides from the pesticide industry, but that also causes a lot of harm. And like I mentioned, the plastic into your child's toy or goes into our kitchen containers. Then again, we're feeding ourselves pesticides by doing that. And there's a lack of information, lack of awareness. People are using these containers to store food that has causing suicidal tendencies in our people. Farmers are killing themselves because they're using all this. So one of our small attempts at controlling this terrible situation is to collect this pesticide waste, dispose it in a way that is safe for our environment, which Bangladesh does not have. So that was one.
Nadia, I don't think any step is small. Any step towards saving the environment is a big step, and you guys have done an amazing job, starting from getting rid of these pesticides, because I remember clearly, like 7 8 years ago, when I became a mom, I was really scared to feed my son, like when they start eating, you have to feed them vegetables and fruits and everything. So I was like, oh my god, these are all, like I want organic vegetables and fruits. I remember I actually got from US and UK, like those fruit purees. I thought they were better than the vegetables or anything that were available here. And I think that is also one of the reasons why we see so many organic or increase in demand for organic products, like starting from the basic essentials to, like even your face cream or your shampoo, organic soap, to organic fruits and veggies and food and everything. But we have seen that trend rising, and you have very nicely explained why. Because we don't have, there is lack of awareness, and there is no way to control these pesticides that we are going to be used. And it is true, we do produce massively. And I think food, and also if I go back to your, like the reasons why even our the father of the nation also said food was a weapon of war. And it's true, because even the UN Sustainable Development Goals that we see, majority of them talk about food, like number one is no poverty. Like, again, food is one of the components, whether you're in the poverty zone or not, but do you have food 3 times a day? Then zero hunger, that's number two. So I see how each of them are linked. And the overview and the historical background that you gave kind of matches with the vision of today. Now everything is linked with the sustainable development goals, and three is good health and well-being. Again, if we are using pesticides in your plastic cups in my child's food, like how are we going to have good health and well-being? And which is also the reason of, like, increased demand for mental health also. Then, then we have number 6 is clean water and sanitization. We'll talk about this more. 7 is affordable and clean energy. Decent work and economic growth, I think that also falls under this. 9 is industry revolution, innovation and infrastructure. Again, industries and factories, they create a lot of waste, and if those are not properly, discarded or disposed of, it can have a huge environmental impact. Reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities. Again, we have seen Bangladesh rising very high on, in terms of air pollution, again, which are from whether we have also seen that using electronic cars is just not enough. We actually have to do a lot more, and responsible consumption and production. We are actually, we Bengalis are minimalistics, and we need to kind of remind ourselves of our roots. And I want to share some data with you, which kind of also was mind boggling for me, that our economic growth has been severely impacted, by the detrimental effects of the environment degradation, particularly that I mentioned, like air, water, soil. We talked a lot about these things already. And our ranking at the environmental performance index, which is called the EPI, is 173. We are in the 173rd out of 180 countries. It's a data from 2022. So this kind of shows that we are very low in terms of taking care, in terms of the environmental performance index. And I think, the fact that, there was, during the World Environmental Day, not that many people were talking about it, or, celebrating it, or doing some campaigns or activities to actually raise awareness. I think, that is one of the key things for us to do. Get into, because, currently in Bangladesh has the highest youth population at this time. So if we can, create awareness and put it in their, in their system, that, to take care of the environment. So because they're the future of this nation, and if we can inbuild this a characteristic that, even the father of the nation dreamt of and thought of, and if we can remind them, of, our roots, I think, and have more people be passionate about, this area, people like you, me, and, like, we have more platforms and forums to raise these topics. It's astonishing for me to hear that we don't have any mechanisms to discard such dangerous, pesticides that are used. Because I know, hospitals are made they're made mandatory, to differentiate their, disposals, like, plastics here, use syringe in this way and that way, because they you do use a lot of chemicals, which are harmful. But, there are, and you are also right, we do have laws and regulations in place. And in terms of, agriculture, I think there is a pressure that, you have to produce, a lot more with with the particular piece of land than you used to. And, in that fear, the farmers start using these artificial mechanisms of growth. It's also used in poultry, chicken that we eat every day. Am I right? Have you heard of that? If we want to increase food security, and it's just not the farming, of, the farmers who are working, in terms of growing rice. Then I think it's everywhere, like, the fruits we eat, the vegetables, poultry. There's a huge poultry sector. And right now we are using artificial, chemicals to make them grow faster. And right now we are also a few days before our Qurbani Eid, and I see a huge difference in prices of, of these, animals that are supposed to be bought for sacrifice. Oh, এটা হচ্ছে আসল ঘাস খাওয়া, এটার এই জন্য দামটা বেশি। একে আমরা অ্যাকচুয়ালি জাস্ট সবুজ অরিজিনাল অথেন্টিক অর্গানিক ঘাস খাইয়েছি। So these, and I was like, what else are you supposed to feed them? Are you, and then I started thinking about it. Oh, acha, you are actually doing other things to make them grow faster in a, you know, in an unnatural way. So is there something funny like that that you've encountered, or like what else do you think we can do to ensure food security? And I know there is a level which is allowed, a level, a certain percentage of pesticide that we have to use. And I have seen during COVID, অনেকে বলছে আগে বাইরে থেকে ফল আনার পরে বাসায় বালতিতে পানিতে 2 ঘন্টা চুবিয়ে রাখবেন, তারপরে এটাকে খাবেন to get rid of this. So do you have, because we cannot change all this overnight, but how can we save our health, our children's health, and our family members' health? So we have seen these tips যে এখন কি করব, এইসব ফল তো এখন বাজারে এগুলোই পাওয়া যায়, and organic fruits and vegetables are actually quite pricey, not everybody can afford them, যেটা actually উল্টা হওয়ার কথা. So what are your thoughts on this?
So these areas are exactly the areas that I kind of specialized in. Earlier, I first joined the animal health department, where I worked to have a lot of these critical antibiotics that are used consistently and at a dangerous level in our life, reduced and banned certain methods. We advocated with GDA to ban that, and that was successful. So that's one of my areas of expertise, and obviously, as you know, field of pesticide risk reduction. So you right mentioned that the solution to all of this, come back to that, but I wanted to, you've mentioned, as you were talking, you went through a number of topics, so I'm just going to address them one by one, if I may. So you talked about sustainable development goals. I just want to refer to our laws in the country as well. The sustainable development goals are goals that we are not mandatory, but there are laws out there that make it a right to have access to food, right? So we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 25, right to livelihood. Actually, it includes our right to food, having access to food. Within our constitution, we have also refers to the government being held responsible for us our basic necessities. So that also includes food. So these governments and the international community have a responsibility to make sure all of us have access to food. It should be a democratized item. It is not something for the 68 men in the world to hold on to or to buy with their money. That and before coming on live, we were talking about the laws that are actually quite extensive, but they're just simply not enough. I want to highlight that Bangladesh, having such a dense population and having the plains run through our country, actually the countries are where the highest animals live off of anywhere in the world. What does that mean? That means that we have the highest to thrive in that area. And what does that mean? That means all the reducing areas for agriculture, for farming, for agriculture, getting squished into these small environments to just thrive off, to just survive in, and they're not surviving, obviously. We can't cram all of these chickens into a little coop and them to survive. That's where animal welfare comes in. This is different from animal rights. Animal welfare talks about the environment that the animals are raised in for animal agriculture. For when I was with the animal health department for FAO, the laws to make sure that we are practices that make sure that the animals are not under stress. They have enough space. But like I said, we are running out of space because there are more people to feed, more enough agricultural land, and all the produces that we are producing, they don't feed our people. They are just and then exported for the wealthy outside our country. So that's And going back to our roots, right? We were never, our diet never included veal, steak, avocado. These are Western concepts that we are embracing. We lived on ভাত মাছ, আমি এগুলা খেয়ে বড় হয়েছি, and এগুলা, these are the things that feed our
ভাতে
soul.
মাছে বাঙালি, ভাতে মাছে
ভাত মাছ
বাঙালি।
বাঙালি, exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to go back to that. We need to, you were asking what is the solution, and you also rightly mentioned we need to go back to our roots. We need to eat. It's not about eating organic food because you have a lot of money, you import organic food from abroad and you eat that. No, that's not it. Organic food actually uses a lot more water, and it's not good for the environment. So don't just fall for that label. Have what is seasonal, what is local. That's your best bet, because if you're having fruits that are seasonal, they don't need a lot of pesticides. Now, if you're having cauliflower, as a winter vegetable in summer, they have a lot of pesticides. So have seasonal fruit and vegetable. And the second thing you can do is actually dipping vegetables into water and then keeping it for. This was a trend during COVID, and
Yeah.
actually, even now, 40% of our fruit and vegetables contain pesticides.
Yeah.
11%, more than 11%, at a dangerous level, right? So, and there's a limit. You also mentioned the limit. The 11% is the limit. The way you can reduce that limit is by keeping vegetables in water for up to 15 minutes with a bit of salt or vinegar. I'm sure you've heard of those methods. They actually work, unless the pesticides has gone inside the fruit or vegetable. For some pesticides, there's things that you can minimize the damage by keeping it in water and salt or vinegar. So that's the other thing. And yes, you also mentioned that for hospitals and medical systems to have a system of safe disposal. In COVID, actually, what happened was, because obviously of the spread and because of the amount of mask and all these things that we were using, we do now actually have an incinerator, but it actually incinerates hospital waste only. So that's a good thing. We have that since COVID. And yeah, I wanted to also mention that, this trend of having junk food because, it's a Western imported country. That is not our diet. There's evidence to say that cutting down animal meat from your diet will actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. So cutting down on the consumption on meat, the way now Eid is coming up, and a lot of people are going to have these antibiotic filled heavyweight meat, right, that are going off for ridiculous
Red
amount
red
prices.
meat.
Yeah,
Uh,
going to eat meat 3 times a day. That the culture behind Korbani Eid is that you sacrifice an animal that you raised, right? That you have an attachment to, not something you just bought and you just kill to show off to your
Relatives or
community.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not part of our culture, and we have to realize, we have to decolonize our mindset.
I
That's
know.
how you make it
I,
work.
I totally agree with everything that you said, Nadia, because I think even I was talking to my parents and saying, like, but I think ওদের একটা আগের একটা চিন্তা থেকে বলে যে এভাবেই তো করে আসছে সবাই। সো ওই যে একটা যে এভাবেই হয়ে আসছে, এখন আমরা এভাবেই করব। বাট আই থিঙ্ক ল্যাক অফ এডুকেশন অ্যান্ড নলেজ, যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমরা অনেকে আবার এই যে রিলিজনটাকেও, এটা রিলিজিয়াস রিজনেও আমরা অনেক এটাকে বলি না এটা কিন্তু দের আর ওয়েজ, রিলিজনেও কিন্তু প্রপারলি বলে আসছে, যেটা ইউ সেড ইউ শুড বি অ্যাটাচ টু অ্যান অ্যানিমাল বিফোর ইউর স্যাক্রিফাইসিং, বিকজ দ্যাট ইজ আওয়ার হাদিস অ্যাকচুয়ালি লিডস ইট দ্যাট ওয়ে। বাট আমরা ওটা করি না। আমরা আগের দিন ভোর ৪টার সময় তার আগের দিন রাতের বেলা একটা অ্যানিমালকে নিয়ে আসি। Some people do that. I will not say everybody does that, but a big majority of people actually do that. And এরা এটাতেই নর্ম বানিয়ে ফেলছে। And you did mention the constitution does guarantee, and there are also some local laws and acts in place which guarantees that there should not be any that people should have access to safe food. যেরকম আমাদের the food safety act, and then we have the national food and nutrition security policy plan from of action from 2021 to 2030. there is a policy in place where it is being made there where the government is taking initiatives to make sure that the nutrition of a particular fruit and vegetable stays in place. And you're right, আমাদের আসলে seasonal fruit খাওয়া উচিত, কিন্তু কিছু মানুষ আছে যে সারা বছর I want to have my favorite like এখন যেরকম আমের season, you should have now. But I am, if you're like an lover, you would want all year round. So এগুলা quite, I guess these are exceptions, but exceptions should not be made general rule. And but এখন কোরবানি ঈদে আমরা অ্যাকচুয়ালি খাবো, but you're right, like let's not have meat 3 times a day. But then again, কোরবানির মাংস খাওয়া সুন্নত, এটাও সবাই খেতে বলে। But হ্যাঁ, let's not go overboard and have it like 4 times a day, or like for 7 days in a row. um এরকম আমরা we get carried. So আমরা দেখার এটার সাথে সাথে আমার I thought I wanted to share with you an article that I came across actually, which was in a positive note. I really liked it. যে আমাদের because of the clean water, in and because of the kind of work that we have been doing in terms of people like you have been doing in terms of reducing the waste. কারণ আমরা কি করি, ফ্যাক্টরি কিন্তু অনেকখানি পানি আমাদের ওয়েস্ট কিন্তু সব আমরা নদীতে পানির দিকে ছেড়ে দিই, thinking that is how it's gonna decompose and get be normalized. So আমাদের এটার সাথে এফেক্টেড হয়ে যায় কারা, the fisheries, the fish. আমরা মাছে ভাতে বাঙালি, এখন দেখা যায় অনেক সময় আমরা অনেকবার দেখেছি যে মাছ মরে ভেসে উঠছে. So obviously there was something done to that river, particular river or particular that area. But a good thing that I have seen in the news recently, that we are now in the third position from the second position in terms of fresh water fish production, because of because we are using this technology, which is basically helping us make the water cleaner. And so that we the freshwater the freshwater fish that are being produced, these are being produced high volume. And again, a lot of it is going to be exported or some other way. But which kind of shows that some work are being done in this area. And this was again where I my interest lies, is because this was due to the help of a technology that was actually introduced in China to clean water, and with the help of technology to drain the waste um, from the water, and and repurpose it, and make it clean. Because actually I have started using air purifier, because I used to get sick. I used to get this cold and flu, and I could not sleep at night. And then a friend of mine suggested using air purifier, and I realized that actually I sleep better. My lips and my nose, they're not dry at night, and it helped me with sleeping. So again, technology. These air purifiers are actually all like compact and like heavy duties with filters. You are taking up a lot of electricity, that is true. But then again, these are all there to help with our air quality better. So moving on to the next topic, we talked about food, and I want to actually now talk about the air quality. I wanted to share an experience that I had um, um, when I was traveling. Actually, I mean, if you've ever been to California, if you go to San Francisco, it's always like as if you're in the flumes. It's because it's so high rise, the cloud is there. You'll feel like ধোঁয়ার মধ্যে দিয়ে হেঁটে যাচ্ছি. But that's how the city, San Francisco city, is. It's not because of pollution or anything. It's actually the cloud. You're actually walking through the cloud. So I recently, not recently, I think a year back, I was in Delhi. So I get out of Delhi airport, and I see এরকম পুরা ধোঁয়া ধোঁয়া, মনে হচ্ছিল যে এরকম বৃষ্টি হবে, মেঘলা. And I was like, why is the weather like this? It was like in the afternoon. So I was like, কি বৃষ্টি হবে না something. So I had few people, colleagues with me, traveling with me. It was a work trip. And they're like, oh no, this is pollution. this is Delhi's regular like weather. It's like this. I'm like, you can't see like few feet away, but ato smoke, apparently it's new, and that is why Delhi, a lot of their office and everything, they're moving away from the city, going to nearby cities. So we actually had to drive, and the company that I had a meeting with was in Noida, which was like a 40-minute drive from New Delhi. And as we moved, I saw actually that with gloominess, with meg, and which was actually মানে air pollution, smoke, that was all gone. And I was shocked. And এখন আমি দেখি যে Bangladesh, Dhaka city is sometimes being compared with New Delhi. And I'm like, what? I'm actually very shocked, and I am really scared at the same time. এখন কতদিন কোভিড নাই, তারপরেও মাস্ক পরে থাকতে হয়, অনেকে থাকে, and it's actually better that way. A lot of people say just wear your mask whenever you're going outside. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I really didn't see this air pollution hitting Dhaka city this bad, so fast, so soon, really.
So again, it's a crop production waste that you see that creates that smog in New Delhi. Heard about this, and it's actually a regular occurrence, and it actually isn't as popular in Bangladesh, but obviously paddy fields, and we do have that adding to the environment. And like I said, the project that I work with, in short, it's called POPs, so persistent organic pesticides or pollutants that can the environment for decades and decades and decades, because they were once released into the environment, and that's the environment. They stay on, just like plastic takes a lot of time to decompose, and that's why it's so harmful for our water bodies and the environment. So is pesticide, any kind of pesticide that we use, the antibiotics that we use, impact. The antibiotics that we use have been killing these bugs, but the bugs are strong and stronger. So these common antibiotics are no longer working. So now the scientific world is working on creating stronger antibiotics to be able to just fight off a simple flu. It's predicted that by 2015, 10 million people will die off of antimicrobial resistance. And this is all due to put out into the environment, whether it's through the livestock or farming, or through the over prescription of antibiotics given by our own doctors. Because if it doesn't cure within a few days, we go back to our doctor complaining, so they give us something strong. So there has to be that balance, right? We can't be other people. There has to be that balance in what we do ourselves, the products we choose to consume and use every day. We can't look for quick fixes when there are none. For example, I would like to share this, the dog culling issue that we have, that we used to have, that was common practice, which is now, there are people complaining, oh, this street dog, it looks so scary. I don't want it anywhere near me. In have street dogs. Why do we need street dogs here? They should be killed or removed. Well, that street dog is actually part of our of restoring our biodiversity, because that street dog that area from neighboring community dogs to come into that area. It fights off wild animals, snakes area. It cleans off all the rubbish that we don't have a system in Bangladesh yet. It's all open sewerage. So in our nature. And if you kill that dog off, there will be two more coming from the neighbor and breeding even more highly, because there are more resources, and it just multiplies the population. So people need to think for the long solution. The long-term solution is mass vaccination and neutering, right? So you can't just be like, oh, I don't want snake in my environment. I don't want spider in my spider kills mosquitoes that we're complaining about. So we can't be using all these pests that are killing all these all of these insects and bugs and creatures, sentient beings that are vital to our biodiversity, because they have a role to play. They weren't just put on earth for no good reason. And then we are adding all these pesticides, antibiotics to our environment. Vicious cycle. Climate change is now showing that bug fests that were not there before. Why? Because we've killed off all the frogs, we've killed off all the spiders because we don't like them. Well, bad news, they're important for us, and we need to have respect for our creatures that are around us. So there has to be that balance. I think there was a question, but I think I kept on talking and it
No,
just
no,
went in a
no.
different
I think you
direction.
answered it. I know the food web. That's what we were
Yes,
talking about, like the food web. Like, it's actually a cycle.
yes,
Each animal, each living plant, um, they all actually play a major role in our food web. And if we actually destroy it, one of them,
yes,
we are
yes,
actually destroying we are trying to, have an impact on the ecosystem that was built that way. And that will not be beneficial. And since we were talking about improving air quality, I'm sure you're aware, everything is, একটা রুট কজ একটাই। আমরা এখানে এখন বাট যেটা বলি যে আমাদের কিন্তু লজ আছে, which is what I want to highlight to our audience, that we have the Bangladesh Environment Conservation Act, we have the environment conservation rules, we have the brick manufacturing, because brick factories থেকে actually অনেক smoke আসে, which actually has an impact on our environment. We have the air pollution control rules 2022. And with all this, even having all these laws and regulations, we are still struggling and to control air pollution. And এগুলার থেকে আমি আলাদা আর করবো না, we are also running short of time. I want to add with this that, how, we have been, we talked about this already, যে আমরা how we are trying to combat climate change. Climate change শুধু একটা জিনিসের জন্য না, মানে everything is linked. হ্যাঁ, plastic use, pesticide user control, like, how we are actually using our drainage system, and how aware we are really. Are we bringing? Can we bring back jute, which will naturally decompose itself? And কিভাবে আমরা এগুলাকে ব্যাপারে আমরা জেনে শুনে আমরা আস্তে আস্তে নিজেরাই, we can control all this. And one thing I have seen that, I have বাইরে অনেক tech companies আছে which are helping with these issues. But I have recently seen there are a lot of startups who are working towards green energy, solar panels, creating solar panels. And এই যে আমরা রেস্টুরেন্টসে যাই, দোকানে যাই, প্লাস্টিকের প্লেট, প্লাস্টিকের চামচ, ওখান থেকে একটু সরে গিয়ে we are trying to use ব্যাম্বু দিয়ে করা কিছু, যেটা বললাম যে ডিকম্পোজ হয়ে যাবে with the naturally, and প্লাস্টিকের ব্যাগ ইউজ করা বন্ধ করতে। California actually has a law. There's a ban on use of plastic bags, because everybody goes for grocery and they get bags. So to stop using plastic bags, and to stop people, to discourage people, they actually started charging people for bags. আগে তো ফ্রিতে পেতো, সবাই বলতো একটা করে দাও। So to discourage people from using plastic bags, they started charging people. And California, they charge you even if you're going to a supermarket or a department store, or like Macy's. If you want a bag, they'll charge you. So what people started doing is people started using recycling bags. So then one of the first things my cousin gave me as a gift was a grocery bag, reusable. She's like, you will need this. So this is a gift which would turn into a small pocket. So এটা বলতে এটা গাড়িতেই রাখবা সবসময়। সো গ্রোসারিতে গেলে ওই ব্যাগটা নিয়ে যাবা, আবার গ্রোসারি গুলো নামায় ওই ব্যাগটা আবার রেখে দিবা। So every time you're actually saving. So there are ways that we can learn from other countries how to do this, but actually আমাদের ইচ্ছাটা থাকতে হবে, and I believe আমাদের awarenessটা থাকতে হবে। And আমাদের মতন এরকম আরো অনেক conversations and talks and discussions হতে হবে, because I feel like I have learned a lot of things from discussing with you today. And I hope that our audiences who are watching this now and who watch it later will also learn and do their part. Actually, I'm not, it's very easy to blame the government and to blame other people, but what am I doing really? Am I playing my role? সো আমিও কিন্তু অ্যাকচুয়ালি এখন স্ট্র, আগে যে প্লাস্টিক স্ট্র থাকতো, মাই সান লাইকস ড্রিঙ্কিং উইথ স্ট্রজ অ্যান্ড অল, এখন আমি কিন্তু মেটাল স্ট্র দিয়ে দিচ্ছি। আমি বলছি নো, আমি এখন ওই প্লাস্টিকের স্ট্র আর কিনবো না, মেটালের স্ট্র কিনো। অ্যান্ড অলসো আই থিঙ্ক ওই যে পানির বোতল, টিফিন বক্স, এগুলা প্লাস্টিকের ইউজ হতো আগে। সো আমি নাও আই গিভ হেম লাইক দোজ metal bottles which actually keeps your water temperature in place, and they are also very easily cleanable and reusable. প্লাস্টিক গুলা কিরকম একটা দাগও পড়ে যায়, ঠিক মতন ক্লিনও হয় না with continuous use. So I think a lot of it is awareness and knowledge, but I do see hope. Can you share your thoughts on, like, because we are all like, I knew this, that when I'll be talking with you I'll lose track of time. We have a couple of minutes left. So how would you kind of, if you want to give with your area of expertise, you've worked in this area, you're passionate about this area, so if there were some few tips for people, লাইক আই সেড, লাইক মানুষের উপরে সরকার কি করবে, আমার নেইবার কি করবে, অন্যরা কি করবে, এটা আসলে we cannot control, but I can control what I am going to be doing, how I'm going to run my household. So do you have any like basic tips or some things to share, so that people who are listening to this can implement this in their lives? And I think, like I said, no step is choto boro kichu na. Every step, like stopping using straws in the house, it's choto mone holo, I think it's a big step. So এরকম কিছু জিনিস if you can share with us, as tips for this generation.
My best advice is to go talk to your nani and see how they were living. We talk about, you mentioned the using the recyclable bag or reusable bag. That's what our nani daddies used to do. They had that to go to the markets, and you didn't have all of these produce being sold in plastic containers. They were open, and you would just get what you need, and that's what the Western world is following right now. I just also, I know we're running out of time, but Bangladesh was one of the first countries to ban plastic bags. So, and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is well ahead and
Yeah,
for
that's true.
climate change globally. So those things are in place. But yeah, my best advice for the trying to make a change is that the West are now following us. So it's, we look to our roots instead of looking to the West to follow what they are doing, because the answers are already in our local community. Support your farmers, try to go get your own food, with whatever space you had. Again, something that our prime minister has advocated for. Use whatever piece of land, whatever roof you have to grow, do that. Get into cultivating, get into, become creative. That is also work. Don't let just your 9 to 5 job define. Make food, make your own food, things like that. Support a local farmer, eat local food, local seasonal food, do all these things, and yeah, live like your nani and daddy used to live, and that's your solution.
Okay, we hear a friend.
Sorry, yeah, that's my that's my dog guarding me
Well,
fiercely.
I think he knows that
Granny.
you're off time. It's his time now. We're taking
It's
over his
time,
time.
yes, yes. I think that's what she's trying to say. She's back from her work, so from her walk.
Yes, and
Right
you're
on.
right. My mom has a rooftop garden because আগে আমরা যখন আগের বাসা আগে সবার বাসাগুলোর সামনে এরকম লন টন থাকতো। এখন because of the population আমরা সবাই অ্যাপার্টমেন্টে মুভ করে গেছি। So I used to live in Old Town, so we had like lots of trees, মানে vegetables, flower plants and everything. So my mom was really sad when we had to move to Gulshan and in an apartment. But if you must come one day. We have now a very beautiful rooftop garden. She grows everything. She's trying to grow avocado because we like avocado. We like, try it. So first we have grapes. She tried to do pan গাছ লাগাই ফেলছে ওখানে. So we are actually having lots of vegetables from the roof. Tomato, morich, I even had ঢেঁড়স. So yeah, so my mom she has that passion towards it, and towards এই যে গাছ টাছ লাগানো. And also, like I said, we should be doing a lot of plantation as well. It's good for the environment, clean air. It helps with clean air. The more plant you grow, your oxygen level, it's going to become cleaner. সো এটা কিন্তু অ্যাকচুয়ালি অনেকেই বলে যে তোমার অফিসে একটা প্ল্যান্ট রাখো, ইট হেল্পস ইউ গেট ইনটু আ বেটার মুড। কিছু পার্টিকুলার প্ল্যান্টস আছে যেগুলো থাকলে দিজ আর অল মুড বুস্টার্স। অ্যান্ড সাম আর ইভেন লাইক আমাদের বডিতেও বুস্ট এনার্জি নিয়ে আসে সাম অফ দিস প্ল্যান্টস। আমি এখন নামও ভুলে গেছি কয়েকটা, বাট মাই মম ইজ অলওয়েজ ট্রাইং টু feed me those. But thank you, Nadia. These are all great tips, and it was a great conversation. I don't know how we finished 1 hour. Literally, it's. I think there's so much more to talk about. We can go for another couple of hours, but I think we will do that off note. And I want to thank you for sharing your expertise, and so happy with the work that you're doing. I'm really proud of it, because not that many people are doing it. I hope lot more people get into this field, and try to save our environment, and get an interest, really, because I could really feel the passion that you have towards this area. And I want more people to be like that. We need more people like that. So thank you for fighting this battle for us, for the next generation, and actually reminding us that we actually have everything within us. We just need to remind ourselves of the power that we have, and that things that we have learned here, that we can implement here. And with that, I want to say good night to everyone, and thank you again, Nadia.
Thank you so much. It was lovely discussing all these things with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, bye.
Good night. Bye.